Disclaimer, I like Dragon Ball Z's Buu Saga. I find it a great watch, very enjoyable, entertaining, fun-spirited. In fact, I even have it in my top most enjoyable arcs to watch. And not only that, when I look back on my childhood, most of my memories actually involve watching the bubbly craziness in the Buu Saga. So how the hell do I go about making a video why the Buu Saga sucks? Well, the same reason why the 90s Street Fighter movie sucks, but I love it and feel good watching it. Does it mean it did its job? It's a success, right? Yes, of course, in terms of an experience, but then you have to ask yourself, at what cost? You see, the Buu Saga does have great moments and introduced a ton of new concepts to extend the lore of Dragon Ball. I would say it helped make Dragon Ball Z appeal to even more fans, but there was a massive sacrifice to the Dragon Ball Z we knew before that, particularly the Saiyan Saga to Cell Saga tone and vibes. I won't even get into the original Dragon Ball. You see, despite the Buu Saga providing us with memorable, exciting times, and is actually a thumbs up arc as a standalone, when you look at it in the bigger picture of the entirety of Dragon Ball Z, it really brought down Dragon Ball Z by destroying a lot of the prestige that happened before it. And that's why the Buu Saga sucks, as a Dragon Ball Z concept, but not as a fun experience in itself. I could name multiple areas that I enjoyed, but we'd be here all day. Fusion, Vegeta's Atonement, Majin Buu, the Spirit Bomb finale. But we're going to be looking at the areas it didn't pull off successfully, because everybody loves bad news, and what major concepts and characters of Dragon Ball Z it destroyed in the process, including what was in its very own arc. Let us begin. Gohan gets the old Kai training and unlocks a power never seen before. See, no need to train for 7 years when the old Kai just awakens all of that sleeping power in one sitting. We get the character development for Gohan plus the power growth back. And it wasn't easy. Gohan lost a huge part of his power, which he had against Cell. He looked appalling in his battle techniques and instinct against Dabura. Presumably going all out against Buu, it still wasn't enough. He got his ass handed to him, and Gohan was out of the game for a while, training with a Z-Sword and sitting there patiently with the old Kai. Until finally, after us fans being so patient for his big comeback, we get the power-up of power-ups, and hell, even Gohan wearing his father's gi, symbolizing the birth of a new savior of Earth in Goku's absence. Gohan is here, and the boy has officially become a man. He's the strongest he's ever been. He's wearing the iconic colors finally. It's all come full circle at last after the days of Cell. Dragon Ball Z is finally completing its story of Gohan being the lead man. He's off to fight the evil Majin Buu. An intense entrance. Piccolo's acknowledgement. Oh my god, he's beating Super Buu with this new ultimate form. Wait, he's losing? What? Goku's back? What the f***? Gohan's absorbed? Vegeta? What? Guys, no! Tell me what all that build-up in the saga was for. No! The build-up in the whole f***ing Dragon Ball Z! Look, I don't mind the slice of life episodes, but Piccolo had to bend over backwards with his big green balls in a knot when the Supreme Kai stood in front of him in the World Tournament. Piccolo backed off, and this made us see the Supreme Kai as super important. Only for it to be a farce, because we know how shit the Supreme Kai is. That's a video by itself, but our boy Piccolo took the hit. Took the big L there in terms of storytelling, for a Kaioshin to have the spotlight on him, only to piss that opportunity of importance up against the wall. Next comes Dabura spitting stone onto Piccolo, treating Piccolo and Krillin like the bird baths that they are now. We don't get Piccolo versus Dabura, or Piccolo versus anyone. The writers made sure of that it is Saiyan time. Fuck the Namekians and humans. And that, to me, was the notion of Dragon Ball Z and where it was going. The fact that Piccolo used to be linked to the Dragon Balls with Kami gave Piccolo that importance. Hell, he was linked to the damn name of the show. And with all that mystery of the Namekians in his blood too, who he used to be, Piccolo had great substance. But as soon as Dende took over as Guardian, Piccolo became nothing more than an extra on the Z Squad. Someone never as strong as the main cast, and quickly became a goddamn comic relief to earn his paycheck. Piccolo was just hanging around to fill screen time in the Buu arc, continuously giving his thoughts on the actual events rather than take part. And this all became apparent when he bent over and tied his balls in a knot yet again to ensure Fusion took over the arc in the form of Gotenks. Goten and Trunks made Piccolo their big green teddy bear, which they could constantly poke and make fun of, so their childish, boring characters could progress to a new level of power to face Buu. Look, if anyone says, well, Piccolo was comic relief even before Kami Fusion, just look at the driving school episode, well, yes, but that was good comedy. It was so funny because it was a homage at the rivalry between him and Goku once again. That was comedy done right. He didn't bend over for anybody. Piccolo bends over in every new arc after Cell to fuel the greatness of others. Piccolo became everyone's hype man because that's all he could do then. That's when the writers stopped giving a damn about him. Piccolo driving was epic comedy because he was still important. He was a player. When Buu showed up, Piccolo was as much use as a chocolate fire guard. I mean, the only time Tien makes a big return is against Super Buu when he and Chaozu actually survive Buu's extinction attack. Cause Tien's a goddamn role model. And he intervenes to save Gohan. But what I don't get is, why make a massive return only for him to admit he's nothing and get shat on again and gets kicked into the dirt by Buu? What shit writing? And Tien took that on the chin, because you know what I'm gonna say. How could a form with so much impact knocking at the front door degrade into something which is not only overshadowed by soulless form designs and recolorings, but has almost been completely forgotten in Dragon Ball? The introduction out of nowhere to Super Saiyan 3, I for one am on the side of the fans who truly believe Super Saiyan 3 is the perfect demonstration of who Goku really is as a character. The form symbolizes an ascension above an ascension, to go even further beyond. It's words Goku should have on his gravestone, along with, what's faster than Goku with a dinner ticket? Nothing. Despite it not being in the same league as the new God forms, Super Saiyan 3 is a more personal form to Goku in my opinion because of what it is supposed to represent. And with that reputation, with that hype and legacy behind it, it hit the ground running with an incredible transformation sequence, a terrified Majin Buu and Babidi who just came off slapping a badass Majin Vegeta. They were scared to damn death, and its stance and presence were phenomenal. I can see Goku vs Fat Buu right now in my mind. Goku had such mean eyes, without the eyebrows, and the no eyebrows I did not mind personally. It made Super Saiyan 3 feel intimidating to look at, to give me the impression of, hey, I'm Goku, but in this form, I am not playing games. This is my serious face, just like Super Saiyan 2 was my son's serious face in the Cell games. And it was at that moment of Super Saiyan 3 which was the pinnacle of the form. It never got any better, it just got much worse. The biggest mistake the writers of Dragon Ball ever did was introduce Super Saiyan 3 in a world where it was never going to have meaning. Its fate, right from birth, was to become a forgotten level of power. And it is sad. Goku does indeed have way too many forms and techniques. Something has to give in order for new forms to have an impact and get screen time. And sadly, Super Saiyan 3 was that form to be pushed back. If I had to describe how Super Saiyan 3 works in Dragon Ball, it would be through the 3 principles of Super Saiyan 3. Number 1, show up, appear badass and do badass stuff. Number 2, get suddenly defeated or lose the power. 3, have no meaning or impact to the finale of the show. That's it, rinse repeat. But wait, there is something I remember which actually had meaning, and that was Dragon Ball Z: The Wrath of the Dragon. If you haven't seen that movie, perhaps it's the only thing that brings justice to the Super Saiyan 3 form. Because Fusion Reborn doesn't really. Again, using the 3 Super Saiyan 3 principles, that is what happened. I just feel that with the placement of Super Saiyan 3, that it was inevitable for the form to be lost in the shuffle and overrun. I mean, what is the point of a form that drains the shit out of you and you can't even get the job done as fast as you say you can against a regenerative piece of shit like Majin Buu? What is the point? It was just bad placement and timing from the writer side. And then we have the stable ultimate forms and fused Super Saiyan fighters. What is the point in Super Saiyan 3? The point may have indeed been merchandising, and damn, Super Saiyan 3 does sell well. It's so different, but still loyal to the golden resemblance. I used to think of it as a turbocharged Super Saiyan 2. The concept is great, but I feel Akira Toriyama and all of the other writers didn't really know what to do with it or where to go with it. The end goal realistically would be a mastered Super Saiyan 3, but that would also set up for an undoubtable further form to surpass it, as if it didn't have enough humiliation as a transformation. Coming off the Kid Buu fight, and not getting the job done again just made me feel Super Saiyan 3 lacked the impact that Super Saiyan 1 had against Frieza and Super Saiyan 2 had against Cell. Super Saiyan 3 didn't end the next big arc against Buu on top. A familiar yet likable tradition had just been thrown away. Super Saiyan 3 has never been given the same love as other Saiyan transformations, both in terms of power scaling and general storytelling sense, and this has led to a large portion of fans to hate on the form, deeming it a forgotten, useless transformation. And although that is somewhat true, I don't hate the form. It's a form that I truly could see had potential, and still has potential, if only it could be written correctly. The writers can write anything they want, and Super Saiyan 3 is definitely on that bucket list to be explored further, but we can only wish for that. There are still some of us out there who have a soft spot for Super Saiyan 3 despite its misuse and timing. The 2 real reasons of Super Saiyan 3's demise, the latter being the most obvious. The problem laid with Gotenks. Gotenks, the fusion of Goten and Trunks, jump into Super Saiyan 3 just after seeing it, again symbolizing their youthful generation ease of obtaining big power, really just made us look at Super Saiyan as a joke. The whole arc with Gotenks could have easily been skipped because he's just there for filler for the kids with no real backstory. Oh sorry, Goten saw his mum turn into an egg. Great motivation there. Great writing. I took that one really serious compared to how future Trunks saw Gohan dead there in the rain. Yeah, you can see the escalation of storytelling right there. The whole Buu arc was back to comedy basics, unlike the Frieza and Android saga. For them to learn something as explosive as Super Saiyan 3 in that amount of time truly started to devalue Super Saiyan 3's presence, just like they did to the original Super Saiyan transformation. Super Saiyan 3 would have been great if only Goku could have used it due to his unique Otherworld training. It would have made sense using that ideology that makes only a fighter in Otherworld pulling off its unnatural feats, more than living beings. But we soon found out that wasn't the case. It just couldn't be maintained, both physically on the character and in terms of storytelling. Though, I did enjoy the storytelling of Super Saiyan 3 being difficult to maintain, making it seem less oversaturated and less relied on. But the problem was, given its double-edged sword notion, of it's supposed to end the fight quickly at the expense of power consumption, we never saw that play out. We never saw it use its true advantage to the full extent. Similar to the Kaioken, it demonstrated its advantage, but in the end, the Kaioken didn't get the job done because of Vegeta's grade 8 power. Super Saiyan 3 is something above an ascension, and should have definitely showcased its meaning with a solid victory. And in terms of it being maintained in the story progression, it was just handled so darn inconsiderately by the writers. Having Gotenks being able to wield it was not a good story choice in my eyes. And my reason for that is, why do we remember Gotenks? It sure as hell wasn't for who he was. His base and even basic Super Saiyan forms didn't leave a solid mark and were somewhat not as memorable as other main characters. We remember Gotenks for being that crazy wild-haired fused Super Saiyan 3. This iconic look of Gotenks is thanks to the Super Saiyan 3 form. Gotenks didn't save Super Saiyan 3 as a form for the story. Instead, Super Saiyan 3 was meaningless in terms of progressing it as the go-to form. The Super Saiyan 3 legacy started to fade fast and made us see it as underwhelming, to eventually being overshadowed by Ultimate Gohan, who didn't rely on any Super Saiyan forms at that point, let alone the double-edged Super Saiyan 3 form. Goten is a failed character, not even wasted potential, just a failed, pointless character that should have never been born. But why are you being so harsh to this little talented young Saiyan? Well, you're about to find out. To the point where not even their own independent, unique path in Dragon Ball GT can save the pointless Neverland bullshit storytelling Goten and Trunks have fallen victim to in Dragon Ball Super. Why is everything a disgrace involving these two? Look guys, before we get into this video further, you have to know this. I really tried to like Goten when I first saw him, and I always wanted him to do something incredible. I truly did, but there's only so much you can take. There's only so much bad writing you can endure. If the great Super Saiyan Son Goku kept his power pole in his pants during the Cell games, we wouldn't have to put up with the most despicable and useless pieces of writing in Dragon Ball that makes Garlic Jr.'s reputation look like a god of destruction. I'm talking about the half Saiyan offspring, the second and most pointless son of Goku in Dragon Ball, Goten. It may not be all of Goku's fault, it takes two to tango after all, so if Chi-Chi kept her legs shut and stuck to the original plan of Blow 10, then we wouldn't have a Go-10. Let's all sit at this table and be real here for a moment. Does anyone here actually like Goten in Dragon Ball Z or Super or even GT? If you do, then you're one of two things, a liar or you're Goten. We all know the purpose of Goten, to fill the void for a little character in Dragon Ball to appeal to the younger fans. Basically, another G800 off the old Cyber Giro systems that's a complete clone of Kid Goku with the added perk of Super Saiyan for modern day fans. Just to have him keep up with the stronger folks somewhat. Because he's written that way. And how has his development gone as a character through an entire new series of Dragon Ball Super? It's non-existent. Even Dragon Ball GT saw his development grow to a mere dating freak, living life in the skirts of many prostitutes. And even during the Majin Buu saga, Goten's development was an absolute joke. Seeing his mother turn into a hard-boiled egg was very emotional and gave Goten the rite of passage for all fans to love him, didn't it? I won't even discuss the disgrace his character has made the legendary form of Super Saiyan. Now Goten was meant to be the focus and future generation of protecting the planet in the Buu Saga. Hence why Goku taught him and Trunks fusion and held off ripping Buu's heart out. And where did that get Goten? That's right, wrapped up in Majin Buu's nutsack anyway. But it's not all Goten's fault, right guys? He's just a little harmless anime manga character. It's the writer's fault. Leave Goten alone. And you're absolutely right. I'm a little bit of a dick here, but you know something? I know I'm not the only one thinking this. And let's mention Trunks here. Poor little Trunks. You know when you have that really talented kid in school who you can see will get high grades and go on to do something great with their life, but then hangs around with a class clown and gets brought down to their level and he gets detention instead of him? That is Kid Trunks. Kid Trunks is a victim and needed to live up to the legend that was future Trunks in Dragon Ball Z. He had a lot to live up to. Trunks was the Saiyan in the Android saga, except Gohan, who probably was the most important, being introduced like a badass, saving Goku, and to return to his timeline and wipe out the androids, completing his arc successfully. And what would a world in the Buu Saga be like if Chi-Chi didn't get all hee-hee in the Cell Saga? Well, for one, Trunks would be the solo kid character for the Buu Saga, meaning the younger audience would be more drawn to him for the Buu Saga than splitting their attention to the more useless Goten. And if Trunks was the only child character in the Buu Saga, how would this have been a better outcome? Well, from a writing standpoint, his character wouldn't have been pressured into teaming up with Goten for comedic value and ruining his reputation. Remember, this is Kid Trunks. He's been brought into the Buu Saga coming off the legacy of future Trunks in the previous arc. Kid Trunks has big boots to fill, and the writing could have focused on his development more in the Buu Saga to give us that. The little hug with Vegeta before he died, that was all Vegeta, not Trunks. Did Trunks need to willingly turn into a Super Saiyan whilst training with Vegeta? No, that was a poorly written idea that devalued Super Saiyan massively. Did he need fusion? No, fusion would have been just fine with Vegito, because Gohan saved Goten and Trunks anyway. It was just a hold-off. Did he need to act like a spoiled asshole? No, he could have been written to be much more of a humble, disciplined child with respect. Something closer to future Trunks but without all the grief. One which the newer child audience could look up to as a role model when watching Dragon Ball Z for the first time. But that's just my opinion. I really would have loved to have seen a regular timeline Gohan and Trunks relationship different to how the future was. That way you could really see how both characters have altered because of the events in the Android Saga. So we know Kid Trunks is equally as destroyed as Goten throughout Z and Dragon Ball Super. Heck, at least in GT they had Trunks become a lead character, but to be honest, he just felt like the Yamcha of the original Dragon Ball cast. So it's safe to say Goten and Trunks have never had any real purpose. Look, I know I'm blasting Goten and Trunks here, more Goten, but it's not the character's fault guys, it's the writers. They've just created a character, mostly Goten, where they can't do anything with him, can't write anything for him, and overall, the introduction of Goten has been a negative result on Dragon Ball. Kid Trunks made more sense being born because he had to be, his future self had a purpose to fill, but Goten, there is no purpose. Hey, let's not even forget about how Goten and Trunks were the beginning of Piccolo's downfall. The big downfall, I mean, turning Piccolo into a massive comedic character. Again, the writer's fault. The pigtail wearing, head scissor flipping, tough badass crime fighter Vidal. How did she go from badass newcomer of the year, a human who had tons of potential and power and could have been written to bring humans back into relevance in Dragon Ball? How did she go from that to the sidelined, stay-at-home, useless character? The mother and wife development of her character weren't the bad things. Those are important steps in any person's role. Something else happened to Vidal, something which ruined her completely. The daughter of Mr. Satan. What could possibly go wrong? Being introduced as a crime fighter, Vidal started the events of the Buu Saga off with a bang by appearing as a tough, intimidating looking street fighter with low pigtails that could kick the goddamn head off a bank robber. She was not afraid of the intense action and not afraid of horrible people, and she had the strength and skill to back it up. What could possibly go wrong? She was raised with all the fame surrounding her, having Mr. Satan in all his glory after beating Cell. She always knew something was up about that, but she was basically living in her father's glory, and deep down, she hated it. This girl has her pride, has her dignity, and can't be fooled. She is always on your case, and discovered Gohan was the great Saiyan. Let me just say that it's okay for a character in Dragon Ball to be a side character. There's nothing wrong with side characters, and there's nothing wrong with non-fighter characters. They can have their importance, be useful, and be relatable in other ways. But heck, when you start off as an awesome ass-kicking female character, we damn sure expect that concept to remain. And there better be a good enough bloody reason why she doesn't do jack shit later on. Well, there is kind of a reason, right? Marriage and parental responsibilities. She took those things seriously and with loyalty. We can't deny that. You'll find out in this video why it's not Vidal's fault, it's the writer's fault. Let me tell you right now the purpose of Vidal's character in one simple sentence. A side story love interest arc for Gohan. That is it. Vidal is goddamn Gohan DLC. And it's so pitiful how Akira Toriyama can introduce a human female with all of the right qualities of being an awesome character, even at the point of the oversaturated Buu Saga, to just have the plug pulled, or heck, not even pull the plug, literally set up to eventually be an extra on the character sheet of Gohan. Yes, it's Gohan's time, with Vidal as the DLC. Vidal is not standalone, and you know something guys, she could have been. And I know many of you feel the same way. I mean, who doesn't like Vidal and how she was introduced? Sure, she was stubborn and hindered Gohan's training so she could learn how to fly and use ki, but cut the girl some slack. She's kicking bad guys' asses without knowing what the heck ki is, without flying, just using her goddamn skill and initiative. And she's showing progression by wanting to learn the basics of these techniques. It's damn awesome, and I love that part of the Buu Saga, or World Tournament Saga, whatever, because it brought Dragon Ball back to basics, where everything had been going crazy power-wise in the Cell games. It made me feel like characters can start from scratch and still get good screen time that may amount to something. Yes, may amount, but didn't. I always felt Vidal had this fire to achieve her goals, or to be a super strong fighter. It seemed like it was part of her being. Of course, she grew up with her dad's false achievements, so she always trained hard to be the best she could be in her own way. She already started to break free of her dad, and was stronger than him, and that was all the drive her character needed to be a successful character in the long run. Vidal is a favorite by many fans, if only Akira Toriyama had the idea and guts to go along with the character all along. It seemed like somewhere down the Buu Saga, she just switched. Her personality swapped faster than launch sneezing. She went from badass, strong assertive fighter to sweet little princess who was head over heels for Gohan in a second. Okay, don't get me wrong, she could have been that for him behind closed doors, but damn man, way to butcher her momentum. Even with that shorter hairstyle, she was still pretty cool. It kept her image fresh. Some say when Vidal lost the pigtails, she lost her spark, but hey, she had some epic move names too. Head Scissor Rush, Eagle Kick, Hawk Arrow, though I do think the pigtails kept her unique look. The last thing you want to do is look like another female character in Dragon. Oh my god, no! Look, in the tournament she fought Babdi's henchman Spopovich, and despite her getting beaten nearly to death, there was a more important message here. Not that Gohan cared for her, but in terms of her fighter spirit, Vidal showed us that she is tough as nails. She will never give up. She fought until there was nothing left. Heck, despite her being outgunned in power, she would use her skills that could have been effective apart from the goddamn hacks. I think she actually broke his neck too. She did pretty well and should never be underestimated. You know, the more I think about it, when she developed the ability to utilize her ki a little, I'd say she became stronger than Chi-Chi, making her actually the strongest female human alive. That's a good title. I don't care that she lost to Spopovich. She was only just starting to develop her power. It's acceptable. But when did the downfall happen? Right after that. Then it became the Saiyan show once again. No place for Vidal, no place for humans. Stand back and let the big bad Saiyans do the work. Yeah, screw Namekians, screw humans. Saiyan time, fusions, oh yeah. Turn to chocolate, baby. And this was it. That was literally it. All that momentum, all the potential to grow, just to suddenly be thrown out like trash. Like leftover sausage rolls at an ungrateful birthday party. It was extremely disappointing. Even to this day, Vidal gets some video game appearances, and it's really awesome to see how much love Vidal gets, how fans want her to be more recognized amongst the ever-expanding world of Dragon Ball and crazy powers. The story of Vidal can be described as a writer's tease, grabbing the fans' attention, allowing us to grow and understand the background of Vidal, playing with our feelings, giving her some progression, then just to shut the door on that awesome character and pretend like it never happened. Well, it did happen. It was there, and Akira Toriyama, Toei, whatever, they all blew do it. She could have been the new protagonist for the Buu Saga for the new fans at that time. I really think she would have done well in that role, and for the long run. One who was just learning about Ki and understanding what Saiyans were. She was becoming much more friendlier as time progressed. She was the perfect character to relate and attach to. One in school, and when not in school, trying to do the right thing by stopping bad people. Strong, fast, leadership qualities, trying to earn her own respect, and to fight her way out of her father's shadow. And it changed it up completely by having the female as the fighter instead. In a nutshell, what the hell happened to Vidal? It wasn't the love story with Gohan, it wasn't the mother's role, it wasn't the short hair, it wasn't the beatdown by Spopovich, it was the goddamn right in direction, slowly transitioning her from strong standalone character to Gohan's sidekick, in life and in battle. It's all about Gohan doesn't like fighting, Gohan doesn't have time to train, Gohan can't do this, Gohan can't do that. What about Vidal? She liked fighting. She used to train with a mean look in her eye and beat the crap out of bad guys. What about Vidal? When will she get time to train again? When will Gohan have the baby so Vidal can go and develop her powers and become a hero on her own? What about Vidal, writers? Even Bulma has fed important roles in Dragon Ball Super. All Vidal gets is offering her services for Pan Saiyan potential in the womb to give Goku even more hype. You call that a good, meaningful moment? In Mr. Satan's words, that scene was a goddamn trick. Whoever said that was a cool Vidal moment of being tricked, it was superficial. She was a spare part, nothing more. In fact, it wasn't even Vidal, it was Pan technically. But hey, this is Dragon Ball Super we're talking about. The show with 0 sense and 0 passion. Vidal became a vessel for the true savior in that moment. And don't think Dragon Ball GT gets off that easy. That's as equal as Z and Super for letting down the character of Vidal. But at least in GT she geared up in the Great Saiyan Woman outfit to go and fight Super 17. Despite not getting there on time, and also showing up to the Shin-Shenron fight, you can't deny this girl's heart. Potential completely wasted. I always thought Vidal deserved an arc where she would make her father proud and make him realize his own bullshit by her being a real hero and doing something so important that brings actual prestige to the family name. Maybe even in the Buu Saga, having her being the deciding factor in a major event. Great writing for her that never came to fruition. Perhaps even going further into the story of her mother and learning what happened with her and Mr. Satan. Vidal could have been explored much more, as well as her childhood, and really a more serious way to tell the story of Mr. Satan than all the jokes. And I know many of us would have loved to have seen it rather than her being Gohan DLC. The stupid Saiyan Woman outfit, the stupid Barry Khan story, the stupid Gohan hype role was all she was in Dragon Ball Super. Vidal is goddamn Gohan DLC. No matter how strong her character was portrayed as a good mum, a good wife, we cannot deny the factors that by the writers linking her to Gohan, it completely destroyed her serious fighting storyline. Her character has become comfortable now, nice and complacent on the side, whilst all the excited kids can now witness Super Saiyan Purple Neon in the next episode of Dragon Ball Super. Imagine Vidal kept pursuing her strength, and was written to be a super strong warrior. She could have been replacing Master Roshi in the Tournament of Power, but we all know in Dragon Ball Super what the consistency of power creeps are like. Yeah, forget I said anything. So I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about Vidal, how she was portrayed. What did they do right and what did they mess up and miss the opportunity with on her? I would like to know your thoughts on how you would have written Vidal. And also talk about her movie roles. I didn't touch on them. She is truly that one character I keep asking myself, what the hell happened? It's the writer's fault. Vidal became goddamn Gohan DLC. The Super Saiyan Bargain Sale, as Vegeta called it. The Super Saiyan transformation of Trunks and Goten was solely there for comedic value and shock factor, and to sell merchandise and to keep a new younger audience attached to the franchise. From a story point of view, Goten and Trunks' transformations were 100% not needed. There were no struggles behind them, and they achieved them during the times of peace after Cell, and definitely no motivation for us as fans or emotional attachment. Their characters were basically just given it. And this was the first big decline to Super Saiyan. Buu is released and squashes Gohan in an instant, even making the Supreme Kai look better than this powered up Gohan. Majin Buu was the Super Saiyan killer in my eyes. He was the leader of the Super Saiyan downfall, apart from Akira Toriyama himself, the guy who had supposedly forgotten he created Super Saiyan 2. During the Buu Saga, we saw the pinnacle of Super Saiyan this far face Majin Buu in the form of Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. This fight showed us that Vegeta, in all of his power as a Super Saiyan 2, everything he had, still didn't live up to Majin Buu. And this was the major nail in the coffin of Super Saiyan being the top dog transformation. Majin Buu took the title from the Super Saiyan here clean. When he smashed Gohan, it was understandable. Gohan didn't train. But Vegeta was way beyond Gohan in the Cell Saga. So Majin Buu made sure the top dog Super Saiyan 2 was put to rest here. Fair game, I suppose you can't be on top of the mountain for an eternity. The real problem soon came about in the form of Ultimate Gohan. Now, Ultimate Gohan is a fan favorite. I love Gohan, I love the Ultimate form, it's unique, and I welcome it. Now, despite all of the awesome traits of Gohan and the Ultimate form, which cannot be denied, it soon rendered the Super Saiyan transformation obsolete. It was literally like the T-1000 rendering the T-800 obsolete in Terminator 2. At this point, the Super Saiyan transformation was looked down upon from the greater powers within Gohan and every other character to come. That he didn't really need Super Saiyan once he could tap into the Ultimate form and unlock all of his power anyway. I like the concept, but really, the only form that could even lace Ultimate Gohan's boots at this time was Super Saiyan 3, and even then, it still wouldn't cut it. So from there, we had Goku and Vegeta use Super Saiyan 1 and 2 against a variety of Buu forms, to not giving them a single advantage, with the introduction of Vegito and his transformation into Super Vegito. It seemed like Super Saiyan was being rescued here, as he only used the Super Saiyan form, but really, we know the truth. The secret of Vegeta's power was not the Super Saiyan, it was the power amp from the fusion itself, which slightly took away the credit from Super Saiyan being the saving grace. Even though I love Super Vegeta's transformation, it was too late by this point. We were left with the notion that Goku as a Super Saiyan 3 was the top dog, but decided to do the moral thing and let the next generation have a shot, which is why he claimed he held back. And we all know how that worked out. Which brings me to the next big problem that degraded the Super Saiyan 3 form, the power creeps in Dragon Ball Z. From the moment we saw Super Saiyan 3 Goku for the first time, we were already balls deep in the entirety of the Buu Saga. We had power escalations one after another. Super Buu, Gotenks, Ultimate Gohan, Buu-Tenks, Buuhan, Vegito, Super Vegito, which left this ultimate persona of Super Saiyan 3 Goku becoming a distant memory already. A very useless level of power at that point. The introduction of fusion power and the jumps they had left the original form of Super Saiyan left it high and dry. There has to be power advances in a show. There has to be challenges for the heroes to overcome. But with the power jumps in the Fusion Saga, too many too soon after Super Saiyan 3. And I say, yes. That was one of the biggest problems. There were far too many that left the likes of the high tier Super Saiyan 2 characters useless. And that's a level far above Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in the Cell Saga, where at that time it was considered the peak of Super Saiyan. Dragon Ball's power progression is sometimes its own demise, to the honor of its previous powers. In order for the next big power to make its mark, a previous level of power has to eat the dirt. And I feel for Super Saiyan 3, it didn't necessarily eat dirt, we just never saw Super Saiyan 3 get truly defeated in Dragon Ball Z. Goku postponed the fight against Buu, and Gotenks ran out of fusion time despite his Super Saiyan 3 fusion self was doing pretty well. The problem with Super Saiyan 3 is that it just became lost in the shuffle, and not necessarily forgotten, but ignored. And by the time the power scales got incredibly high, such as Buuhan, there was no chance of pulling Super Saiyan 3 back. The only way I could have seen Super Saiyan 3 remain positive in people's memories of Z is if Super Vegito hit Super Saiyan 3, to make us start thinking, here we go again, Super Saiyan 3 is back, to finish the saga with the new Super Saiyan form on top. But I think even then, the oversaturation of Super Saiyan 3 would have killed its elegancy and uniqueness anyway, much like another Super Saiyan bargain sale. The King of the Demon Realm, thousands of years old, Babidi's right-hand man, a goddamn veteran, and the first real threat of the entire Majin Buu saga. The guy resembles Satan, only a Satan that decided it would be radical to own a squat rack and a set of 50-ton dumbbells next to his throne. This guy has the best chest definition in Dragon Ball, and the fact that his goatee gives me the impression that he's the Undertaker from the Ministry days. I'm going to say right now, Dabura had the caliber in the looks department to be potentially the greatest villain in Dragon Ball history. Oh, it gets better. Give him a giant sword, give him a cape for the Dracula look. The most alpha disgruntled voice in every universe that existed, owns his own demon realm, has flame breath, stone spit, a friggin' spear to hunt wild boar, evil eyes, and the goddamn intercontinental title around his waist. He's even got a super hot sister. Why is Dabura so incredible? It's because it's Dabura, the villain who was stated to be stronger than Cell by Goku. Yeah, it was Super Perfect Cell. Cry me a river of lava. But despite all those outstanding credentials, despite looking absolutely vicious and scary when he was about to turn Gohan into pork scratchings, despite him lighting Kibito out faster than shrimp on the Barbie, despite him keeping his goddamn cool even when Vegeta rebelled with his Saiyan pride speech, despite him being a goddamn veteran with generations of fighting knowledge and wars. Let's go through a few more of this guy's personality traits that give him the credentials to be a top tier villain from the moment we saw him. This dude was a smart guy, well mannered, kind of reminded me of the Dooku type. And this guy was extremely loyal to Babidi despite the events of Majin Buu's hatching. But the Demon King has the balls to question Babidi if he needs to. People brag about Vegeta's pride speech, but Dabura passively disagrees and questions Babidi on a day-to-day basis without overexerting his stupid aura. That's power, that's control, that's the Demon King. That's a goddamn veteran. Of course, later down the line he underestimated Buu and acted a bit of a prick towards the fat blob, but he's the goddamn veteran Demon King Dabura of the Demon Realm. He's allowed to act with flair. But this guy has the backbone to admit his mistakes, and he soon started giving advice to Babidi about Majin Buu needed to be stopped before he becomes out of control. And you know something? Dabura was right all along. It happened. Like I said, he knows how to handle situations. It's a shame about the power difference and writing decisions. He was the alpha concept of villains, but didn't have the writing to back him up. This guy was spooky, luring Gohan in to attack him, and when he roars when attacking you, I would crap my pants. And man, this moveset, he had so much unexplored potential with his dark magic, his demonic will to be explored, that separated him from other villains up until that point. He could have had some ultra demon form that made him look like the final boss Jecht from Final Fantasy X. And like I said, a sword, what's not to love about that? They could have had Dabura unlock stronger versions of the sword, flame sword, dark magic blade, so much potential completely wasted. The biggest downfall of Dabura was indirectly caused by Majin Buu. It couldn't be helped. The arc was building up for Majin Buu. It's only fitting for the current villain Dabura to be squashed to put Majin Buu over. And that was part of the problem. First of all, Dabura didn't need to get killed off to put Buu over. And secondly, even if he was killed off, it should have never been done in the way it was done. A complete insult and joke to an almighty Demon King. Basically, they had a concept of this Demon King, and they basically pissed on it to make Majin Buu look really strong. But Buu was already strong anyway, and could already prove himself against Gohan, Vegeta, and the Supreme Kai. Why they needed to take Dabura out of the picture as well like that was beyond me. Okay, sure, he could have gone out in a blaze of glory like the Demon King that he was supposed to be, showcasing his true evil dormant power. But nope, they turned him into a cookie, basically erasing all of the seriousness of Dabura we got up until that point. It was a complete mockery. Dabura is a goddamn veteran, not a goddamn carbohydrate. Sure, there's only room for one big villain, but they should have killed Dabura off with a bit more honor. Even if it was a squash match, cut his damn head off, or something like you see in gritty war films or battles, but a cookie? Come on. May as well dressed him up as Snow White before punching a goddamn apple down his throat. Look, I like Majin Buu, as I made a video previous on the respect I have for his concept, but the way they treated Dabura here was exactly like Babidi treated him. We don't need you now, we have a better, stronger villain, bye bye. And just like that, they tried to find a quick way to get rid of him. And to me personally, to have Dabura just get eliminated like that makes me think, why the hell did they bring him in the first place? They could have used some other chump to fill his place and get beat. Because all he did to advance the plot was detect Vegeta's weakness to get him to turn. Oh, and he had an unfinished fight with Gohan. Dabura really didn't do jack shit of plot importance. Oh, sorry, he recruited Pui Pui, okay. And that's what's sad. But at the same time, he had all those qualities to be vital to this arc if he was pushed in that direction. Who doesn't love a Demon King veteran? Damn it, we could have had Dabura get smashed down, then later recover and actually, with a massive twist, side with the good guys in a desperate struggle to fight Buu, because they're on common ground. Imagine Vegeta and Dabura versus Buu. Of course the result would have still been the same, but the chemistry and interesting dialogue we could have had would have been pretty cool. Heck, even have Dabura bring in his dark army to get revenge on Babidi and Buu. That would have been kind of cool stuff to see as well, with the Dabura in Z. Furthermore, we obviously needed him dead for Piccolo and Krillin to be restored, but imagine Dabura was able to magically reverse the Stone Spit and free them upon realizing he needs allies to defeat Buu in order to become the champion of evil once again. But then imagine we got an angry Piccolo who stood up for himself and regained his dignity in the Buu Saga, because Piccolo was a joke back then. But imagine he wanted to prove himself against Dabura. Imagine Piccolo hit the time chamber for 1 year, came out and squared off against Dabura later down the line to reclaim his honor. Demon versus Demon King. Take my goddamn money. But no, what do we get? Dabura in heaven filled with joy and love. And that was the icing on the cake for me. when it came to the writers giving a shit about Dabura. If being a cookie wasn't enough, let's take away his evil once and for all, and make him mingle with the wives and girlfriends. Look, I see the comedy aspect to it, and the fact Dabura would have liked hell, but still, it was the execution of wasting a good concept. It was the Majin Buu show, I will give it that. But why introduce a top tier character concept only to take a big flaming demon dump on them? It baffles my mind. As much as I like Buu, by having the decision to have Buu make a joke out of a serious Dabura type character, that really showed us what direction the whole Buu arc was going in. And that was a wacky, jokey, Super Saiyan bargain rollercoaster ride. I want to know from you guys if you are a fan of Dabura, and what you think of his Dragon Ball Z portrayal. His hero's betrayal, how would you have rewritten him, what you like and don't like about him. I want to know it all, so comment below. Tell me something I've missed about this wasted demon god who should have either never been introduced or should have been treated better. But his gorgeously powerful sister on the other hand.